My name is Jacob. I come from Keenious. I'll show you how Keenious can be a tool that you can have in your toolkit that can help you solve some of the problems you might have as graduate students. Just a big caveat in the beginning. This won't be the tool that will solve all your problems. So I hope you're ready to use a range of tools. But this is an AI tool that can really help you with research discovery, and I hope you'll see after this presentation and that you can play around with it yourself a little bit and see the value it can bring, especially to finding research papers and helping you with your work when you're reading or writing. All right. Yeah, we have a range of customer universities. We actually don't have Eunice as a customer right now, but we're eager to show you the tool and hopefully you'll recommend it to your institution so they want to go for it. There's also a limited free version that you can play around with on your own. All right, let's see here. So typically what I do in these presentations is to first sort of talk a little bit about the problem we help solve, just so everyone's on the same page regarding if this is the right tool for you, when should you use it? When shouldn't you use it, right? Sometimes we shouldn't use these AI tools. And then I'll really show you a few use cases that are practical and very applied that you can use when you're writing a paper or you're perhaps reading a paper. And then we'll talk a little bit about the next steps and like I said, also some of the recommended times to use it that we've seen that our customers and users are happy with. So I hope that's an okay agenda for the call. I also have my colleague Christian here, but I'll be doing the presentation. But feel free to ask questions in the chat or engage with us. Otherwise, we're really open for that, and then we'll try to answer the questions as best as we can. All right, so I'm sure all of you have struggled with this. I certainly have. I remember when I was writing a master's thesis in history and political science and international relations, that it was quite hard to find papers online. Not necessarily that I wouldn't find stuff. Sometimes I would just go to Google and I'll find stuff, but it wasn't necessarily time efficient, and I wasn't finding the quality that I wanted. And I think a lot of students see this. Of course, you are graduate students, so I'm sure you are perhaps mastering this more than perhaps undergraduate students are. But what we've seen is that this is a persistent problem just because we're all new to a field. That's why we're studying it, right? Even researchers who are looking into a new problem are new to that problem, perhaps. And anyone who's new to a field will, lack knowledge, and it's difficult to formulate these search terms or come up with them. It can also sort of distract from the work a little bit, right? Sometimes I'm writing something, and if I'm going to have to open a tab and go into a database or think about how to find that paper I might need to engage with, that can sort of break me out of that zone where I'm writing or reading properly. So yeah, it can be a distraction also. The second problem we've seen here with searching is that, yeah, it's hard because we're also creatures of habit. We tend to sort of just go with the flow, go with the way we have established to find information. Some people will always start with a papers, bibliography, and start there. Um, but then they'll be very much engaging with the same sources as that paper did, right? So it can be limiting as well. Others will always start with ChatGPT or Claude or other AI tools, but maybe they won't find papers that haven't really that AI tool is familiar with, or maybe they'll find papers that are hallucinated up. So being beholden to one or two search strategies can be very limiting. And yeah, if we do the same thing over and over again, we have to expect the same result, right? So I think it's important to know that there's a lot of different tools out there that can help you in various ways, because you might miss out on valuable sources if you just do the same one or two things over and over again. And I'll show you how Keenious can help with that. So I know there's a lot of you, but are someone open to perhaps say if this resonates, if this problem is something you felt? I mean, if you don't, we can just end the presentation, of course, if it doesn't resonate, but I'm eager to hear some thoughts from you.
Jacob, I really think this is fascinating, and I can resonate with what you are saying more from a lecturer's position, because
Right.
sometimes students write and they claim, and then you ask yourself, where do you get this claim from? Who is saying this? Which literature supports this discussion? And I was fortunate. I played around with Keenious, and I wonder whether students resonate with what I say when your lecturers are saying, this is not your own. Where did you get this information from? So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely resonate with your concern.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah. Oftentimes that is the issue, right? People might have claims and they want to back it up, or as a lecturer, I think that's very useful for students also to know that, when you write something, people are really questioning, what backs this up. Um, yeah, so I studied a little bit of history, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, and we tried to look into this problem and see how far back does it go. So I'm not going to bore you with a lot of philosophy and history here, but this is just so you know that this is a perennial problem. This is a quote from 2,400 years ago, where Plato actually talks about this as the learner's paradox. How will you inquire into that which you do not know? What will you put forth as a subject of inquiry? So it's basically, I think it's akin to when you're opening a search bar and you have that, if it's the ChatGPT or Google, when it's just a blank bar and you're like, okay, what do I put into this search bar, right? What do I put into this chat interface if it's ChatGPT, for instance? And oftentimes we're at a loss, right? We're drawing a blank. Maybe we are not entirely sure what we want to write about or what we want to read about. Um, and so this is very limiting, right? If we always have to sort of think of a question and be able to formulate that before we can find research papers. So yeah, it is very hard to find these unknown unknowns, right? The things I don't know that I don't know. And search engines aren't really made for that. So this is a paradox we as humanity has faced for 2,400 years at least. And that is really what we're trying to solve here. So, when sometimes you are benefiting from a search engine, especially if you know what you're looking for, right? If I know I'm looking for a specific fact, or I know there's a specific paper I want to find, I'll use a normal search engine for that, right? Or even an AI tool. But if I don't know what I don't know, then it's really hard for me to look that up, right? It is, if you think about it, it's a little bit of a paradox. All right, so this is a limitation of any query based. That means any tool that is question based or has an interface that's chat based, right? Okay, so just get the basics out of the way. Recommendations are very different. We're used to them from our daily life. And recommendations are basically AI recommendations now. You'll see that in almost any tool out there. It's based on artificial intelligence and machine learning. Just to say we're used to it in our daily life, but it's very different from search. That's why search can be great, like I said, if you know what you're looking for. And these recommendations can be great if you don't know what you're looking for. That's a very useful sort of rule of thumb I have at least. Um, but the important thing is to say it doesn't replace each other, right? Search has its place, recommendation has its place, and they're really best when used in conjunction with each other. Okay, so I'm going to show you briefly what I mean with Keenious here. So there's a number of ways you can use Keenious. If you're seeing my screen right now, you can go to keenious.com, and it might look something like this, and you can sort of type something straight into here to see what you're looking for. I'll also show you how Keenious is used in Microsoft Word as an add-in and also in Google Docs. So this is how Keenious looks like for a user. Here, I can press text here, and then I can type something in. So if I'm looking for AI tools helping students learn, that's enough information for Keenious to start analyzing, basically anticipating what could this become? What is it all about? What's the meaning behind it? And then come up with a list of articles here that I can explore. So you'll see a long list of articles on the right-hand side. Here's one about AI in education, enhancing learning experience and student outcomes. So you'll see that I didn't really mention student outcomes, but the AI has recognized that, okay, student outcomes is probably akin to students learning, right? So I can click that article. I can quickly get a sense of, okay, what is this article all about? Like for instance, the metadata and the abstract and all of that. And then I can engage with it, right? So this one was published in March 2024. It was published in the journal Applied and Computational Engineering. And here's the author's name. I can read the abstract, and then I can pretty quickly see, okay, do I have access to this paper? So here, I can see, do I have access? How do I have access? So here, all right, with UNISA, and then I can go straight to the PDF. Of course, sometimes I might need to authenticate myself as a student or affiliated with the university. But then here, straight into the PDF, and I can start reading this paper about AI in education. So it's really easy to engage with and find these papers. And I hope you see, it's very easy to find something even if you don't know what you're looking for, right? I just wrote in natural language AI tools helping students. Then I opened the article like that. Then I pressed check access here, and then I engage with it, and then I was able to go into the paper quite quickly. Okay, so this is a one useful way of using the tool. Perhaps it's hard for me in the beginning to know what exactly I'm looking for. So in addition to articles on the right left-hand side here, I can also get topics recommended. So, articles, there's a list of article topics. These are more sort of opening the literature through concepts broadly defined. So the AI tool has now recognized that, okay, AI tools helping students learn. That's what I want to write about. It might be useful for me to know that there's a concept called intelligent tutoring systems and adaptive learning, right? So I might not be familiar with these terms, like we mentioned earlier, but this can be a great way for me to learn, right? So intelligent tutoring systems, okay, maybe that's something I should look into. And then I can apply this topic as a filter. And then I'm able to filter by only papers that are relevant to this topic, um, but not limited only by the wording, but by the concept more broadly. So I add it to include list. Now it's relevant to my text and this filter. And I can add more topics, right? So maybe, I don't know, maybe educational technology and pedagogy. Maybe that's an interesting one. I'll add that. And that's a very intuitive way to sort of use topics to narrow down the list of articles that I can engage with. And you'll see that there'll be slightly different ones. Here's one about AI tools in teaching and learning English academic writing skills, or an AI applications in education, a review published in 2025. And again, I can then see, okay, what is this article all about? And then I can go in and find the paper directly. So clicking here, I also want to show you once you've sort of engaged with the paper, you found it, you read it, you can very easily, so here I can just press this one. I can very easily cite the paper. So again, I found the paper. If I've read it, I can press this button here, cite, and then I can get it formatted in the style of my choice. I can also very easily export it to Zotero or EndNote or Mendeley, any of these reference managers. So I'm just going to show you how now. So for instance, I'm a Zotero user, so I'm often just exporting the article straight to Zotero. And here you'll see import file, and I've opened Zotero and I can just press OK. And it's a great way to help you keep your research organized. All right. So I am mindful of time right now, so please let me know if I'm overstepping. There's just so much I want to show you all. So this is how I can use just the sentence, a few words to find papers in Keenious. But I also want to show you if you have more text. So let's see here. So are you able to see my Word document right now?
Jacob, just a minute.
Yeah.
You've got time until at least 12 o'clock or quarter to 12. So you've
Okay.
got ample time. And then we're gonna ask the students then to post their questions into the chat as we go along. But you've got sufficient time.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. And are you able to see my Word document right now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Great. So with like was mentioned earlier, Keenious is also an add-in in Microsoft Word. So this is just my Microsoft Word document. You'll find something called add-ins. Sometimes you'll have to search it for it here. Other times you'll find it like a button like here, and then Office add-ins and the store, and then you can search for Keenious, and then you can just add Keenious there. Um, so again, oftentimes it's in the Home tab or in the Insert tab that you can find add-ins or get add-ins. And once you've added it to your Microsoft Word processor, you'll find the icon on the right-hand side. It's called Keenious Research Explorer, and it only activates once you click it. So I click it now, and you'll see it's popping up as a sidebar here. And I can press explore using text. And what happens now is that Keenious is using the text you have in Microsoft Word. Um, like I said, analyzing it, see what the meaning is all about, and then try to come back with a list of recommended articles for you to engage with. And I hope you see here how, this is not very invasive into your workflow, right? Because sometimes you have to open up a browser, find a website, figure out what to put into the search engine, what wording, the search terms, the keywords, right? But here I can focus on writing my text, and then I'll get recommended articles on the right-hand side. So of course, there's much more data here for Keenious to analyze all of this text here. And that's useful for me to find papers. And as I keep writing, and if I refresh pressing this button here, I'll get more nuanced recommendations. So these articles will be slightly different. And just as I showed you on the website, we recommend articles and topics. There are very many features here that I want to show you. I think one of the most popular ones is something we call the focus feature. So basically, I can focus on any part of my text. Maybe this part here, this sentence here, qualitative data from student interviews is selectively employed to aid in explaining the results. Okay, so this is from an abstract. And once I highlight it, I can emphasize that sentence. And that can be very useful because it might be hard for me to distill this sentence down to those like really powerful keywords, right? But with Keenious, you just highlight what you're particularly interested in. It will still take into consideration the rest of the text, right? So, but it's very useful to get more targeted recommendations. And here you'll see, here's a paper from 2022 called Conducting an Interview in Qualitative Research, the Modus Operandi, or, guidance for novice researchers. So it can be very useful. For instance, here I'm focusing on more of the methodology, right? And this can be very useful for me to get a sense of, okay, how should I go about with the methodology of my paper, maybe? So it's a way of targeting specific parts, and they get very targeted recommendations. And then I just press check for access. It will open up again, and I can sort of see, do I have access to it? Do I not have access to it? And then engage with it. So once Eunice as a customer, this will all be automatic. You don't have to search it up like I did here. It will automatically assess here. But yeah, it's a great way to do that. So this one, just so you all know, this one had an open access icon here. And for those of you who are very observant, you might have seen that we didn't find it in the collections when I pressed the button, right? But I was able to press this little link here where it says PDF, and I'm able to get straight into the PDF of this paper. It's 21 pages long, and so it's another way to sort of see if I have access to it. And anything that is open access is really easy to find. So if it's like this padlock here, if it's opened, that means that it's very easy to find it. All right. I'm also I want to show you some of the more advanced features of the tool. So like I said, the most popular is definitely among the students I speak with is the feature where you highlight different parts. It can be a few sentences, a few words, or it can be a whole page if it's a longer text, right? But this highlighting part, try it out. It's really useful. Of course, you can also filter by more advanced filters. So if you press filters here, filters, you'll see all of these filters that you can do. You can decide to use specific keywords. If you're looking for something very specific, maybe we're looking for literacy, then I can add that. I can filter by, if it's open access or not, when it was published. Maybe I want just papers published in the last year or so. I can also, decide that I only want highly cited paper. It should have a minimum of 10 citations, maybe. And you'll see this is very useful if you have like a specific something you're looking for, right? Here you'll see authors being recommended. You can also do the same with journals. So it's a way of limiting your exploration, and that can be particularly useful as you sort of are more familiar with what you're looking for. Yeah, and here you can also search up authors. So I really recommend playing around with some of these filters. And then let's see, view results here. You'll see literacy highlighted. That's because in the filters, I wrote literacy here. You'll see it's only published since 2024, so everything is 2024 here. Yeah, it's a great way to also get highly cited papers because I put as a requirement that it should have at least 10 references, right? So you'll see 12, 18, 10, 19. And I really recommend this as a way of saving time, giving you more time to read and write the papers rather than spend a lot of time finding them. All right, so these are very useful ways. Once you've found a paper, you can put a little star next to it that says add to bookmarks, right? So when I press it, it becomes yellow, and I can unpress it again, then it's removed from bookmarks. And my bookmarks is basically a list of articles that I can access here that are maybe papers I want to read later that I found particularly interesting, but I don't want to read right away, right? I'm saving them for later. And yeah, and then I get the list of papers here that I bookmarked. So I really recommend doing that if you're maybe doing a bigger project. Okay, there's also quite useful to know that you can actually translate the input text to a lot of different languages. So obviously most of the papers are published in English, but I'm actually from Norway, so I can decide that, I'm really more interested in Norwegian papers, and I can actually use this feature to translate from English here and then find Norwegian language journal articles here. And then you'll find here's some articles that are relevant to my topic about information literacy and discovery systems that I can engage with. And you can scroll down and see a lot of different languages here. So that can also be great if you're bilingual or you're able to engage with research in many languages. It can be also a great way to save time rather than having to translate separately and then open a website and search for information that way. But yeah, it is defaulted to auto detect. So that's just good to know. Yeah, and then I think that's the most important thing about the add-in. Again, once you want to close it, you just press the cross up here. And once you want to activate it, you just press the icon, the K icon here. All right, so I also want to show you a little bit more about the sort of opening the black box of the tool a little bit, just because oftentimes as students and researchers, maybe we blindly trust AI, and that can be a bit dangerous. So we just want to show you how you can actually get a better sense of why a paper was being recommended. So if you press this icon here, it's called Result Insights. That will give you a sense of why a paper was recommended. So every paper will have a unique card that pops up, and you can see the variation up here, and that can give you a sense of why a paper was being recommended. So this result insight shows that, keywords mattered for about 52%, the AI predicted meaning for 48%. It got a little bit of a boost because this article was published in 2013. And then, it had 176 citations, so it got quite a lot of a boost for that. So it's an easy way for you to sort of double check, well, why was this paper being recommended? Yeah, so I really recommend checking that out if you're curious. There's always a reason, right? So just it's a way of opening up the hood of the technology here and giving you a little bit more sense of what's going on. Yeah, this is more specialized here, but you can actually export the whole result page. That might be useful if I want to export all of these articles here, 50 in total, maybe straight into Zotero. I can do up to 100 at a time. Very useful if you're doing something that requires sort of engaging with a lot of research articles, or you want to keep all of it organized. But yeah, that's the main features of this tool. So this is great for when you're writing, but I'm also going to show you now how you can use Keenious for reading. So here it says explore using text, but you can also explore using a PDF. So on our website here, instead of text, I can press PDF. And here I can select a PDF that I have available. And then I can use that as a way for me to get context to whatever I'm writing about. So for instance, here, the PDF I have on my computer. I can use it. It's a 13-page document called Almost in the Wild, Student Search Behaviors When Librarians Aren't Looking. And now there's quite a lot of information here. So now Keenious is analyzing the whole document, trying to gauge and get a sense of the meaning, right? And come back with the list of articles. So it actually recognized that this paper is Almost in the Wild. So that one popped up first, the most relevant, right? But then you'll see a lot of different articles here about student search patterns, or, student searching in a subject-specific indexing and abstracting database, all of these different papers that might be useful for me to know about. And as I keep reading this paper, just as I keep writing and focusing with my focus feature, I can also actually focus on different paragraphs. So if, for instance, here's a few paragraphs about the methodology, I can just highlight that. You'll see that it pops up, it's search with highlighted text here, and then I can click that, and then I can get a more targeted list of recommendations that's relevant to the methodology paragraphs here, but still taking into consideration the rest of the 13 pages here. And this is, again, very useful when you're reading. Maybe you want to see or figure out more papers about something than to give you context, right? Another really useful tool.
Jacob?
Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies. If you could finish in the next 7 minutes, I forgot we have another presenter in the same time slot, so that we can allow the few questions. We can take that to 10:02, and then we can give the other presenter a chance to join in. So if I can give you, let's say, 7 more minutes, and then if you can conclude. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Was there a question as well from someone?
Can we, if you wish to conclude, perhaps, then we can go to the question and answer.
Then we can go. Yeah, sure. So just a few more things. Oftentimes for when people are reading, I really recommend using the year published filter. It can be great to sort of, if you found a really interesting paper, I really recommend using the filter about year published to see what's sort of the latest going on within this field, right? Um, so that's a really a good way. If you found a good paper, use the year published filter to get the latest research. So that's a recommended filter for me. Okay, so yeah, mindful about time. I am gonna just say that you can also use Keenious for systematic reviews, although it's not designed for that. We have some students, especially more advanced graduate students and PhD students who have used that. And here's an example of one way of doing it from a protocol in psychology, talking about personality traits. And she actually used Keenious to sort of find papers that was hard to find through to traditional search engines. Um, but just sort of to summarize some of the times when you should use Keenious, we have seven different use cases here. You know, you can use Keenius when you're starting a project, you know, it can be really good when you're beginning to research and you want to get a comprehensive list of papers to explore. Maybe you're stuck as well. It can be great for when you're in need of inspiration, right? You want those fresh ideas and perspectives. Use Keenius to sort of explore. Maybe sometimes you're using ChatGPT or some other tools and you're worried about, you know, maybe the papers are fake, right? Maybe they have been hallucinated up by the AI. You can use Keenius to make sure that it's not the case, just because Keenius is anchored in a database. So all of the papers you see on the recommended list in Keenius are real papers. Of course, you have to sort of engage in source criticism and be critical, but all of those papers are real papers published in journals. None of them have been sort of generated by AI. If you want to engage with actual papers and the primary sources, to see where it was actually published, it's great for that. Oftentimes, these other AI tools will sort of generate stuff for you, and of course, some nuance might be lost in that AI generation part. If you want to formulate your own thoughts and when you want to understand content more deeply, maybe you're interested in articulating your own ideas. We also see some people using Keenius maybe right before submitting a paper, right? They want to see, did I miss something? Is there, you know, I want to avoid that embarrassing seminal paper that I didn't engage with. Just put the whole paper into Keenius, see what pops up and see, did you engage with the top results or not? It's a great way to sort of double check right before submitting it. And it will save you a lot of embarrassing moments, trust me. Yeah, and it can also be great if you're working across languages. Just to say, sometimes when I wouldn't use Keenius, you know, if I'm looking for a very specific paper, maybe I'm looking for a specific study I heard about, and I know the name, then I would probably use the search engine, right? So this is more for exploration or when you're writing something or you're reading something, but it's not to be used instead of a search engine if you know exactly what you're looking for. Um, yeah, just to compare Keenius to a lot of the other tools out there, oftentimes what I really focus on here is that can the tool hallucinate information? Currently, Keenius, you'll see here it says no, and that's because it's all anchored in the data set. A lot of the other tools might sort of hallucinate, you know, they actually do the work for you, generating an answer or automating some of the work or generating a report. But with Keenius, you don't have to be afraid about sort of plagiarizing anyone because um, it's all just recommending an article or a topic, and then you, of course, will have to read or engage with that. But it saves you the worry of like, am I plagiarizing right now, or is this really true information, you know? So I think that's important to think about when you're using all of these different tools. To summarize, we don't train on your text. That's your intellectual property. We don't generate any text for you, so you can know that the work you're doing is yours, right? We don't write full summaries. There aren't hallucinations in Keenius. Keenius actually encourages you to read and engage with the research material. It won't do the work for you, of course. It doesn't generate any text for you, but it saves you a lot of the time that you would normally spend finding information online. Um, yeah, and so Here is the paradox solved. And Keenious is a made-up word, meaning full of enthusiasm for inquiring knowledge and engaging with new ideas. We want to be a little bit of a different AI tool, and I hope you've seen that in this presentation. And I'm really open for any questions, so please let me know. And you can also contact me at jacob@keenious.com if you have something in writing that you want to share with me.